And we welcome Molly Ryan, who is the Executive Director of the Clinton County Industrial Development Agency and the Director of Economic Development in Clinton County. Welcome. It's nice to have you.
Thank you. It's nice to be here, Tom.
Before joining the IDA a couple of years ago, you were Chief of Staff for Assemblyman Billy Jones for several years. So you've been through the budget process before.
A couple of times, yes.
As we just saw, the governor came to Lake Placid to roll out her $233 billion state budget. You were there for that. She talked about her request for another $82 million in funding for ORDA to continue upgrading the Olympic venues in Lake Placid to try to lure world-class events to the region, which of course could also boost tourism. Our lawmakers here in the North Country have been pretty united in applauding that. I'm sure it was well received in Lake Placid.
Yes, very well received. Whenever any of our regional partners do well, we all do well. So it was welcome news to see the commitment again to the Lake Placid and the Olympic Regional Development Authority, and we know there's big things on the horizon. It's welcome to see the commitment to that infrastructure.
What else did she include in her budget that political and business leaders here in the North Country like?
I mean, you know, it's such an expansive budget, but some of the things I noticed that she talked about in her presentation, which isn't specifically economic development focused, but, you know, COVID has done quite a bit of mental health, has exacerbated mental health issues, particularly in our youth. As a parent, as a working parent, you know, that impacts you as a worker, as a member of society when your child is suffering. And I think that to see the commitment to mental health, a significant portion of her mental health budget was going to the North Country, given our rural nature. So that was welcome news. Her commitment to housing. It's a different plan than was last year, so there's not that mandate on the counties that you know, that we were very worried about previously. And housing is an issue. We know that. And the counties, particularly Clinton County, are committed to figuring out ways to create new housing options here because, you know, we have lots of businesses here that need more workers, but they do need somewhere to live. So that was also welcomed news.
She was asked by reporters about prison closings. There is language in the budget that would let her close up to 5 prisons. What else in the budget may be a tough sell for folks up here in the North Country?
Sure. I mean, let me be clear that Clinton County in particular does not support any kind of language for prison closures. That does impact jobs in our region. You know, while people may be able to keep their jobs as they consolidate prisoners, it's still potentially moves people out of Clinton County, which contributes to our economy. But further, I think before we even discuss prison closures, we should be talking about the prisons that are already closed and still sitting vacant. So she did indicate in her budget that they were going to be examining state properties that were vacant for potential housing solutions. I am hopeful that maybe this is one of those ways that they can do it. But I don't think we should be talking about any more closures until we figure out what we do with the properties that are still sitting abandoned.
The governor's budget does include another $100 million for the Red Sea, the Regional Economic Development Council, for more rounds of $10 million downtown revitalization initiative grants, like the DRI awards that have gone to Plattsburgh, Saranac Lake, Tupper Lake. Plattsburgh's centerpiece project still tied up in the courts, yes, but overall, is the DRI helping communities, especially here in the North Country?
Absolutely. You know, and I'm hopeful as the executive director for the Industrial Development Agency that at some point we will be able to move forward with the money that we were given by the state. I know that there are a lot of feelings on different sides of that project. That was prior to my tenure as executive director in the Industrial Development Agency, and we've seen the success in Tupper Lake, we've seen the success in Saranac Lake, and that Lowville was awarded today. You know, these are places that have really benefited from this, and I am confident that we can all work together to find good solutions to make that project work and help people and not impact businesses the way that people were concerned about. We just need to communicate and have an open dialogue about how we make that work.
The governor kicking in another $100 million for New York Forward to help support development in rural communities, another $100 million for Fast New York. And that's getting industrial sites shovel ready for manufacturers. Could that be good for Clinton County and, say, the old airport property?
We actually have an active application with the current Fast New York, so it was very encouraging to see more money committed because, you know, that means the money isn't quite drying up as fast as we thought it would. we believe we have a very strong application. The Clinton County Business Innovation Gateway, as Clinton County has named it, is over 450 acres, are potentially being able to develop the particular project that we are working on right now that received EDA and MBRC funding, as well as commitment from our partners at TDC and the town of Plattsburgh, and the county have put forth significant amount of money to get the project off the ground. We're hopeful that we will be able to get state monies to finish this project, which will immediately open up 135 acres. The focus of our grant was the expansion of the industrial air park, which is at full capacity. So having this expansion, we know that there are businesses already there that are looking to expand even more. So, we have some great established businesses out there, Monahan Medical, Norsk, Michelin, all of those companies are doing very, very well in expanding and are looking to expand even further. So we're looking forward to working with our particular partners at TDC who have already committed to purchasing at least 12 acres there.
The governor is asking for about $8 billion for the Metropolitan Transportation Authority and its capital plan. The MTA is a huge customer for many of the region's transportation manufacturers here in the North Country. Yes, Nova Bus will be closing in another year, but they're still fulfilling contracts for the MTA, and there are other manufacturers here in the North Country who would benefit from the MTA being
of
fully
course,
funded.
and I mean, we still have Alstom, who's still making rail cars. We have lots of subsidiary companies that do work for the benefit for the MTA. And so when you talk to people down in Albany or New York, and they're like, why do you guys care about the MTA? But it's very important to the manufacturers that we have here. So it's always welcome news to hear more commitment to the MTA so that we up here can help supply those products.
And we're talking about Nova Bus. Is the IDA involved in trying to find a new use for that assembly plant, a new tenant to come in, and any progress?
Sure. Here's the thing about the North Country. We work very well as partners. So all of us in economic development, myself in the IDA and the Economic Development Department for Clinton County, North Country Chamber of Commerce is primarily leading those conversations. TDC, obviously, these are things that we deal with day in and day out. And just for purposes of people watching at home and understanding, what we do in the at the IDA is offer tax incentives to make it a little bit more business friendly. It's not like New York State has the best reputation of being business friendly. So, despite the fact that manufacturers can get credits, lots of businesses can still qualify for certain tax abatements that we can help make their business sustainable in the long term. So, yes, of course, we're looking to help bring that project back to fruition and put somebody in that space. And hopefully they will be able to take advantage of some of those incentives.
You touched a little bit on the governor's renewed push for new housing. Scale back version this year, not the mandates on the counties and the communities. How much of a priority is housing here in the North Country? How big of a problem is it? Both housing stock for employers, as you mentioned, but also affordable housing. Yeah,
and actually the governor even said it in her speech today. When people say affordable housing, they immediately think Section 8, and we do need Section 8 housing, and town of Plattsburgh in particular has done a good job of committing to doing things like that. But we also need affordable housing for middle income families that are just trying to raise a family here and do things. And a lot of people will say, if I look at the value of my house, it's skyrocketed, but where would I go? Because there's just, the inventory is not there. And so we need to be able to create new opportunities in different places, unique places around the North Country. And I think she even said in her comments, and I agree with this, is that it needs to be smart zoning. It's not, we can't just say everything should be zoned housing. I don't know that I would put up a housing development next to a warehouse or a manufacturing facility, but there are places that make sense to put housing that we can work together to do that.
The county-owned airport has just added a new airline, Breeze Airways, with flights to Orlando starting up in late November, and soon flights to Tampa as well. The CEO, David Neeleman, said if these flights catch on, they'll look at expanding to more markets. And he mentioned perhaps even Las Vegas, a nonstop flight to Las Vegas. The hope is to get Canadians to come back and fly out of Plattsburgh. That number really dropped off considerably during COVID when the border was closed.
Yeah. It dropped off. Well, first let me say we are elated to have Breeze here. And if you don't know about Breeze yet, you should check them out because they, David Neeleman, as people may know, was the founder of JetBlue, and so it's modeled very similarly to that. And they are very pleased with the activity that they've had thus far, and so we are very hopeful that I don't know if it'll be Vegas or where it will be, but I think we can expect very big things from this airline in general. So we're very excited about that opportunity to work with them. And fortunately, though, the Canadian traffic has picked up. We're actually back at a level that we had seen prior to the pandemic, where about 70% of our passengers are Canadians. So we're glad that that border's open and glad to welcome them back here to the Plattsburgh International Airport.
Plattsburgh International Airport, though, also has the Air Industrial Park.
Yes.
And a lot of people may not know about that. Has a number of tenants, nearly 30 tenants altogether.
Almost 30 tenants. That brings in almost $1 million in revenue for the county every year, and a wide variety of tenants. Beta Technologies obviously is one of our most popular ones right now, given the funding announcement that they received from the governor.
And you talk about Beta Technologies. That was the big announcement just a couple of months ago. A $20 million grant from the state, an overall $41 million project. They're hoping to go into mass production within the next few years, getting FAA approval. They have contracts already lined up with UPS, the military, air taxi services. So as they expand over in Plattsburgh, they're committing to 85 jobs here. Mm-hmm. That's encouraging.
They've already developed relationships with CB Tech to have a paint booth school. So they're already very much entrenched in creating a pipeline of students here and employing people here. And we couldn't be happier to have them here.
85 jobs with this project is the hope as they get certification, as they land more and more contracts, as they plan to build hundreds of these electric aircraft, that they may expand even more over here in Plattsburgh.
Yeah, that's always the hope. That's always the hope that they're going to expand more.
The announcement that Clinton Community College would be relocating to SUNY Plattsburgh in the fall of 2025 has left many people wondering what will become of the campus and the buildings owned by the county. Mark Henry told us last week the county will do studies in the coming weeks and months to figure out the best use for that property and those buildings. Granted, it's early on in the process, but any ideas so far gaining traction on what may be the best use? First
and foremost, our concern is for the students and the faculty and staff as they transition to a new location. And we're not going to be in the business of showing a house before it's even on the market. So, they're still going to be there for the next 18 months. Obviously, with that said, our chairman did say we would like to conduct a feasibility study. And once we have that information, then we can better decide what's best. I mean, I've heard millions of different things. Obviously, people have talked about turning it back into a hotel. It's not quite that simple as when it was the Hotel Champlain. There's no access to the lakefront. It's an older building, so then you have the Institute of Advanced Manufacturing right next door. So trying to find something that makes all of those blend together and work together is going to be a marathon, not a sprint.
And you mentioned the IAM, the Institute of Advanced Manufacturing, the 30,000 square foot facility that for almost 7 years now has housed Clinton's technology programs and space for companies to come in to do worker training. Early on, does it appear that there may be a commitment from SUNY to come in and help run that and maintain that facility?
Yeah,
there?
Those conversations are still happening. I don't know if anyone is committed to anything, so to speak, but what we are committed to is making sure that the facility gets utilized in the way it was meant to.
Molly Ryan, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you. This was wonderful, Tom. Thanks.